This is lecture 7, example 3. We have yet another example problem here that I swear I'm going to get right the first time without looking at the solution. And so let's do it. So this is very similar to the previous problem we did. The previous problem we looked at 32 values in memory at a given starting location, and we summed them up and took an average. So essentially we shifted it right by 5 times, which gave us the average. So this one is similar. I'm going to memory. This time I'm looking at words, looking at 64 words, and I'm counting. I'm counting how many of those words are 0. And so that's it. I'm just going 64, how many are 0, and I'm return the that value, number of 0 values in memory in X30s, and looks like the value of the first piece of data is in X20. Okay, so let's do it. Let's be good programmers here and do a subroutine or a flowchart, and I'll say CNT Z for count 0. Okay, so typically a bunch of init stuff. It's very similar last time. I'm counting something, so it's going to be an accumulator. And I think in this problem, that's also need a loop count, which I need to set 64. So we need to do that also. So we'll worry about that later, but I'm going to model it as, I'll say I'll say the iteration equals 0. If it equals 0, I'm going to return. If it doesn't equal 0, I am going to get some data. Now the data I'm going to get it from memory, so we'll fill in those details later. And I'll say data equals 0, and I'll say yes. And that's going to be increment z count, which is my 0 counter. And then I'm going to go on to some loop admin. And then I'm going to go back to this outer, we'll say the outer conditional loop, branch, which is the while loop. So this is a while loop with an if-then-else statement inside of it. And so once again, I think this is the first time we've embedded such constructs, but it's really not that big a deal. And so let's crank through this thing. I'm determined to get this right. Okay, so this is going to be CNTZ. Okay. Wow, okay. And anyway, I know it has some init stuff, so I'm going to put init in there. And we agreed that the things it's going to need to init is the counter. Well, I'm counting the zeros, so I'm going to move x30. That's where the subroutine wants it. With x0s, that's initializing the count. And then I'm going to have a loop count. I need to initialize that to something other than 0. And I'll just use x10. I like using x10 for some reason. Initialize that with a 64. Okay, so that's this block right here. Next thing I'm going to do is this right here. I'm going to check to see if I'm done. And I'm going to check the loop count, BEQ. I'm going to check x10 with x0. And if the loop count is equal to 0, then I'm done. I'm going to come down here. Like I said, anytime I use a label, I like putting it in there. You know, look, if it's wrong, I can go fix it later, like it was wrong in the last problem. Okay, so that's that diamond right there. Diamond symbols for conditionals, and so this is the yes part. So I end it. And here's the no part, which is right here, which is get data. So this is going to be load word, x25, it doesn't matter where I load it, 0, x20. 0 is offset, x20 is the base register, x20 was sent to the subroutine by the problem. It's the address of the first piece of data. Looks good. So I've got data in x25, and I'm going to say, I'm going to pull out a branch instruction. I got to think this out. What I'm going to do is, if it's not 0, I'm not going to do anything. So I'm going to say branch, not, I have to, actually, I'm sorry. I have to look at my piece of paper here to see what branch instruction I need. And there should be one in there. Yes, B and E. Branch, if branch is not equal, so I'm going to say branch is not equal x25. Branch if x25 is not equal to 0 to, I'm going to put an admin in on here. Okay, so the admin will be here, just somewhere down below. And then I have to finish up what happens if it does jump. So if that is 0, essentially what I need to do is increment my loop counter, which is x, not the loop counter, but the 0 counter, which is x30, x31. Okay, so that's this box right here, which increment the 0 count, and then I do drop it down into the loop admin. And so this is going to be loop admin. It's very much like the previous problem. I'm going to add immediate to x20. Now this is the index into memory. I'm using word, so I have to increment that by 4. Okay, once again, if it was bytes, it would be 1. If it was half words, it'd be 2. And then I'm incrementing it by 4. That gets me to the next word. Other thing I have to do is add immediate. Essentially, I have to decrement the loop count, which is, well, these are both loop admins here. Let's see where my loop count is. x10 minus 1. And then I am done. Loop. Okay, so I'm going to jump back up here. This is modeled like a while loop. Here's my while loop starting here, checking the condition. Inside that while loop is an if-then-else construct, and I'm going to call that done. Hopefully I didn't forget anything on this one. Most important thing was the program called out words, which is why I was advancing that index by 4 every time. Okay, and I will check the solution, see if I forgot anything. Yeah, that looks about right. I certainly, all the names are different, some registers are different, but the code itself is the same. It's functionally equivalent. Okay.